Welcome to the Real Estate Edit podcast. I'm Tara Kroc, CEO of the Real Estate Edit, a Charleston-based real estate agent and your guide to building a real estate business you're obsessed with. I've built a multiple six-figure business without cold calling, feeling salesy, or burning myself out, and have coached over 5,000 agents on how to do the same. Whether you're just starting out, ready to scale, or somewhere in between, this podcast is your go-to for marketing strategies, lead generation tips, and actionable advice to growing with confidence. Together, we're rewriting the rules of real estate so realtors just like you can create wildly successful and sustainable businesses. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Estate Edit podcast. I am actually really excited about today because I get to welcome Sarah Hilton. And Sarah is an amazing online marketing expert, and she helps real estate agents close more deals on Instagram. And she really shows you how to leverage ChatGPT. In high school, she was voted most talkative. So I can't wait to see where the conversation goes today. And Sarah, I would love it if you could just introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about you.
Oh my gosh, I sound like one of those people who peaked in high school, but totally. That's like my claim to fame. My kids are like, yeah, obviously. Okay, a little bit about me. So yeah, I came from like the marketing space. I worked in marketing and nonprofit very long time, like back in the MySpace days. I don't know if anyone older than like 80s will remember that. And then my company was moving and I decided, I'm going to have a flexible schedule. I'm going to become a real estate agent. So I did. I started practicing and I hated it. And I always say this, like when I'm doing classes and stuff, is I am not good at sales. I'm not good at negotiation. I was really good at like getting the clients through my marketing, and I started leveraging video marketing pretty early on. But once I got them, I was like, oh God, no, this is like too much. So I decided to kind of stay on the marketing side. I still hold my license. But yeah, I'm way more focused on how to use social media, like a free tool, basically. Imagine being an agent 30 years ago, right? So just kind of how to like leverage it as a free tool and bring people into your world. And then from there, it's just a numbers game, how to convert them into.
Amazing. Okay, I have a lot of things that I want to ask you about. So right. I much prefer the marketing and lead gen side of things. I found the same, that where I shined was actually where a lot of other agents struggle, which is lead generation. And so I really tapped into that. And I think it's fun that you did too, because I don't hear that often from other people. They're always like, oh, like I like the real estate side. I hate the lead gen and the marketing. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what like lights me up. And I get so excited talking about it. And people like eyes glass over and they're like,
yeah, they're like Instagram. I think it's that, the part that was so fun for me in practicing real estate on like the sales side was finding out what I could communicate to them that would get them to like want to work with me. And when I saw people who would be like, it just seemed like such a big hurdle when you're going through real estate classes and people are telling you, knock on doors, do this. As much as I love people, I grew up in New York City, man. If you knock on a door, you're going to, like, we don't do that. And even now, like, people, it's just, I don't know, God bless people who still do it. I couldn't. But I love the part of just finding out kind of like what made people tick, what made them engage, what made them love me, what made them not love me and love someone else. It was just like meeting them was fun, but just like getting an inspection request or having to like, I'm a people pleaser, right? So it was just fighting with another agent for a living. I couldn't do. I was like so stressed. Yeah, much prefer this side of it. I'm with you on that.
I love that. That's amazing. So, and I agree with you too, that I think that agents, when they first get into the business, they're like, okay, great. So I have to be door knocking or I have to start cold calling, and there's a much better way that is free. And I understand that when agents come in, they're like, you're low on a budget, because let's be real, getting your license is not cheap. And so with that, a lot of times you are on a pretty strict budget to get started. So, you want to look for ideas that are free and organic. You can't pay for ads. You can't pay for, pay for your leads, which can get extremely pricey. So using free tools is definitely the way to go. But we want to do it in a way that feels really good to you and your brand. So
leaning into that, and to piggyback off of that real quick, I think one of the things people don't understand, because when I first started just leaning into marketing, I was running Facebook ads and stuff for agents. And the other thing I want agents to kind of get from this is that, yes, in the beginning, you're on a low budget and you should be taking advantage of all the free stuff. But the great part is that once you are on a bigger budget, you don't want to wait until then to learn all the things that work. It's better to learn them all while they're free and then put money behind that stuff. If you just put money on cold stuff, it's not going to work anyway. You're just going to be kind of reinventing the wheel.
that is such an amazing point. And I actually say that with my students all the time. They're like, okay, great. When can I run ads? And I'm like, whoa, now we want to make sure that what you're doing works.
Yeah.
So that when you put money into it, you're not just throwing money at the wall. You want to make sure that it converts free. If it converts free, then you know you have something there. So that's a really good point.
Yeah,
I love that.
Exactly.
So you actually specialize in a little tool that has made quite the splash over the last couple of years. And there is some love-hate relationships going on with it. And that is ChatGPT and AI. So can you tell me a little bit about that and how you started really getting into it and leaning into that?
So ChatGPT, when I talk about ChatGPT and AI, there are plenty of AI tools to use for everything. The reason why I kind of hone in on ChatGPT is I think it's important when we're learning anything to pick a platform, be really good at it, go deep, not wide, because me included, but especially as agents, you're not here to be an AI expert on Claude and Gemini and Perplexity. You just want to find ways to use that one good tool and use it well. So that's kind of why I lean into more ChatGPT, but there's plenty of other AI tools that work just as well. The reason I got into it is because I'm a little bit of just I'm probably like you. I'm a little bit of like a marketing nerd. We just love to try out new things. It's exciting what works. And at first I was just doing what everyone else did. Let's write a cool listing. But once I started to get into it, I started to see it for all it could do. And instead of, I think when it first came on the scene, people were just using it to kind of take that creativity off of them. But really the best way to use things like this is as a tool to kind of streamline your work, streamline your day. When I was practicing real estate, I would spend all this time on marketing. Then I would get some closings in a month. And what happened was I was so busy with the closings that none of the other stuff was happening. And then you kind of have to start all over. So a tool like ChatGPT and AI can really, help you automate a lot of your work and marketing and kind of pre-game, for lack of a better word. But also now, especially, it can really dig into data, search trends, all these things that'll help you make sense of what the market's doing, what people are doing online, and help you best communicate in a way that resonates with them. That's what I love to use it for. Let's get into people's brains. It's the answers to the test, basically. If you give it some search data, if you give it some MLS data and ask it to interpret that for you and help it to give you some marketing strategies, whatever, you already know what you're doing. It's just a matter of now you have to go and actually post it or make the video or whatever.
Right. And I think it's really interesting too, because you said it and I can't unsee it now. When ChatGPT first really made a resurgence in the real estate world, and let's be honest, real estate tends to be more than a few months behind when it comes to things, right? Yeah. So we latch on to a trend a little bit later than most industries. So with that being said, when ChatGPT came on the scene, everybody started using it for listing descriptions, right? So now that's all a lot of us really know how to do is use it for my listing descriptions. And the unfortunate thing is now I can very easily tell when an agent is using a ChatGPT for their listing presentation.
The emojis give it away right away. Or I remember I saw someone that did, they were trying, but they did 10 Valentine's Day restaurants in Charlotte to check out. This was a couple of years ago when it first came out. And 3 of them had been closed. And because remember when it first came out too, the data was a year back. And I was between the emojis and the wrong information, we're not in the mark here. But yeah, you can kind of see it. It's gotten better, but that's why I always say AI, and I know you mentioned it's controversy. I want to know what you've heard, but the biggest pushback I've heard is it's going to replace us. We're already scared because we have to negotiate our own buyer's agent fees and we're up against iBuyers and all that stuff. And I truly always believe that technology won't replace realtors. I mean, it's just that realtors that are using it will replace the realtors that don't. The same goes for video, same goes for social media. And for that exact reason, ChatGPT can't give nuanced answers. Sometimes stuff is wrong. It takes a human to make things sound and appear human.
Right. Well, and it's really interesting too, because I know that there are, in my community and people that I have spoken to, there are a lot of people that are still really hesitant to use it. There's the conspiracy theories. There's the, like they're going to steal all my data. And yes, they're going to take over my job, or, no, I don't want to use it that way. And here's what I like to compare it to. There is an art to Googling. Like there is an art to Googling. Some people literally, and I found this out with my husband actually, because I will ask him to search for something. He's like, I can't get the answer. And I'm like, are you serious? Like you have to know how to ask the question in order to get a response. Do you know what I mean? To get a response that works for you. One of the things that people are missing in AI is how to personalize it. And I agree with you that, people think, oh, it's going to replace. No, it's not. Because here's what happens. And we've seen this time and time again with trends. And I'm going on a tangent here because I just went on this tangent.
I love tangents. Let's go.
But the other day I was thinking about it. I'm like, we tend to think like everything is going to be so permanent and this is it. It's the end of everything. And you have to remember that we go in phases where the pendulum will swing one way and then everybody's like, this is crazy. Why are we all the way over here? And then the pendulum has to swing the other way. And then we find that balance, right? So we got to go to the extremes before we can figure out what the middle part is. So as an example, we're going to go back to 2020, 2021, 2020, 2022. Oh my gosh, that was a lot of 20s. But we're going to go back there and we're going to say everything was online. Everybody shifted online. Businesses had their remote workers. Everybody wanted to do everything online. A surgence of online businesses came.
Doctor appointments were online.
Doctor's appointments, everything was online, right? But now what has happened is over the past, I'm going to say about a year, I have noticed they want their employees to come back to work. Right. They want to do, you know what I mean? Now everything is, now instead of building online communities, people want in-person connections. Instead of building huge communities, people want small, intimate moments with their people, with their ideal people. So, we kind of see that time and time again with different trends. Yeah. And so I think we hit the pendulum of like, everything's going to be AI. I'm going to use my listing descriptions and everything's going to sound robotic. And now we need to just find that middle part to stay ahead of the curve where we still sound authentically like us, but we are using it just as you said, Sarah. I think that's the perfect way to explain it, as a tool, not a replacement, to help us in our day-to-day businesses.
Oh, 1000%. I've had this conversation with my husband, who is like, he's only a few years older than me, but like technology wise, he's like, I'm like, what century were you born in? Like, Jesus, he's so like old school. And like, when I got into real estate, he was like, you got to make your call. He's been in sales forever. You got to make your calls. You got to do this. And I was like, why would I go knock on 5 doors when I can make one video and see 200 people? It just doesn't make sense. And I've talked to him about when everything was coming on the scene with like the buyer's agreement and, all this stuff. And he gave me the example of like in the dealership, he used to manage dealerships for 20 years. When Carvana and places like Disruptors came on the scene, all the dealership people were freaking out. Oh, no one's going to need the sales guy. But it's true. Like for a little while, people were like, well, this is great. I could just order and pay for a car online and it's like a drive-through. But you hit the nail on the head with that, is that you have to go back to what makes humans human, right? There's a really good book, and let's go on a nerd thing right here, but it's like the behavioral, what's the name of it? Anyway, Behavioral Psychology and Marketing. It's by Nancy Harhut, right? And it's really good for agents and people like me and you to read alike. But it's just like, what makes people human? People desire relationships and connections. You know, we saw everything go online, which is what we needed during that crazy time. But we also saw instances of like depression, anxiety, all that stuff rise up because that's not how humans were meant to be. Mm-hmm. So realtors are always going to be needed and advisors are always going to be needed, whatever. So anyway, but yes, about the ChatGPT is that I think for a little while people thought, oh, I can just hand everything over to ChatGPT. And it's not powerful like that because the prompt it would give to me based on the way I would talk, the way I would engage, the way I present something will be different than you and will be different than the next person. And adding your one trick I found recently is when you're asking it, well, two things, but when you're asking it for output, I tell it, write this in my personality type, right? So if you know your Myers-Briggs, or if you're an Enneagram person, or a lot of realtors like the DISC profile, that simple tweak, if you're like, write this as a high I on the DISC profile, or I have a client, she's a high D, I could never talk like her because she's very like, to the point, she's not, niceties. When you do it like that, that alone will help separate it because the same sentence I'll say as a high I and the same sentence she'll say as a high D is going to be completely different. But yes, it's meant to be a tool. Do I think you can just use ChatGPT for everything and let it manage all your videos and you never show your face? No, your business is not going to get any better by that. It's meant to give you ideas for videos. It's meant to streamline your work and then to automate your lead gen. So all that time that you're spending on your marketing can be automated. Start putting people, if you're going to sweat to like create a video, which most of us do, you might as well like get the most bang for your buck for that. You know what I mean? It's like if I go to the gym and then I have a slice of pizza after that. I don't go to the gym, but I should. But like, if you go to the gym and you have a slice of pizza, you might as well. It didn't do much for you. You know what I mean? You're just kind of balancing it out. If you post a video and you have no way, at least for some of them, to capture the people who are watching, you're not maximizing your time. Does that make sense? I know
perfect sense.
I could sit here and like talk about this all day, but yeah, I think there are with ChatGPT and like we're going to talk about in this summit, there are ways for them to work together to help you build content that really resonates with people, and then find a way to drive those people into some sort of database, whether that's your email list or CRM. Because in reality, we don't own anything that's on Instagram. Do you remember the great Instagram shutdown of 2023, I think? Like for an hour?
Yes.
The way I was sweating, like I was like, I got hacked. Oh my God, everything's gone. I had like 4 different people were messaging me about their own accounts. And I was like, oh my God. And we also, I don't post a lot on TikTok, but we also what happened on TikTok not that long ago, so you really don't own those people. You can get hacked at any moment. You can use your account. You have to find a way to get those people into a database that you own. Yep. So that way, if things plus email and stuff is always going to be a much more intimate means of communication with your clients and leads and all that.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Both of those situations, I know that I have gotten up very high on my horse and I have been like, this is exactly why we teach you what we teach you. Because as you said, we do not own these platforms. And as much as we would love to be able to just guarantee it's always going to be there, things happen. Things are wild. And it would be sad. It really would be a shame to think that all of that time and effort and connections and relationships that you did build on Instagram just died right there. Do you know what I mean? It is just
thinking about it.
Same. It makes me just feel so uneasy, which is why it is so important to get people off of those platforms and into, like you said, your own database so that you can continue to build an authentic relationship with them outside of that platform.
Right. And they can work hand in hand very easily. Like a lot of the emails I send out to people on the bottom, it's something easy like my Instagram, a little snippet of my latest Instagram video. Or you can go, on the real estate side, now you have your email list. You can say, hey, I posted this great video about a house. Check it out here. I mean, those two can work in tandem. But yeah, having them in your database, that's your real bread and butter, more so than just social media. Social media is just the attraction, but the conversion side is going to come through on that back end for sure.
100%. So I want to talk about, just real quick, I want to give somebody like really tactical advice. If they are listening and they're like, okay, but I have only used ChatGPT for my listing descriptions.
Right.
How can I get started using it, number one, so that it sounds more like me, so that it sounds authentic? I love the idea. I love the tip about the disc profile or the Myers-Briggs, Enneagram, whatever that is. But how do you get it to kind of sound more like your tone of voice, number one? And then number two, you keep talking about like systems that I can create with it. What kind of systems can I get started? What would you say would be one of the easiest systems to kind of just play around with it?
Right. Okay. So on that on that ChatGPT side, right, there's an area called custom instructions. I would take a little time, that should be in your settings. I would take a little time to set that up. You want to tell it who you are, what market you're working in. You should absolutely have a niche, right? There's a quote, oh God, if you've been in my like live classes, I'm so sorry because you've heard this 7 million times. But there's a quote that says, actually know who you're talking to, blah, blah. But it says never feed salad to a lion. Right. And the point of it is that if you're at the zoo, and you have this great bit of like lettuce, it's really filling to, a herbivore. Right. And it's the perfect food for that herbivore or whatever that is. But you can't feed salad to a lion, right? So you really have to know your audience. And I think agents really get hung up on that, at least in my experience, because they don't want to focus in on a certain town. Like I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, fairly big. I don't know. I grew up in New York, so like compared to New York, it's not a big city, but it's a fairly big city. Lots of suburbs around. So many agents are afraid to even hone in on one of those suburbs or neighborhoods because they're like, well, I practice in all of Charlotte. But you really have to niche down for your message. And that goes in any market, any industry. But for that message to be clear and to resonate with your people, you have to have like a niche and build your marketing around that niche, right? So in those custom instructions, tell who you are, where you work, what your niche is, what your goals are, what your struggles are. Basically, as much information. Sit down with it for 10, 15 minutes. Give it as much information and then talk about how you talk. If I'm putting in there, I'm like, hey, I'm a pretty loud, like, New Yorker. I have a Hispanic background. This is, I just give it as much as I can. And over time, it gets better and better, as far as putting that information. So that's number one. As you play with it, it'll get to know you more, but you can keep feeding the system more instructions. Like, this sounded a little too excitable. I'm not that excitable. You know what I mean? And just keep honing in on it. You have to give instructions, but over time, you're going to have a really great output. And then I guess like part B of that is that I think people think of ChatGPT as they always have to give it commands. You can ask it questions. So you can ask it, hey, what more do you need from me to give me better output? Or can I phrase this prompt in a better way to get a better output? It'll help you develop that. So you don't only have to give it commands. When we talk about now how to automate your lead gen, where that starts with is relevant content, right? Because that's what kind of builds trust and gets that return on investment. So you have to have that niche audience. Then once you're there, let's say for this example, your audience is 55 plus home buyers, right? You want to tell ChatGPT, this is my audience. Make me a list of their wants, needs, fears, pain points. You can tell it what you know about that market, what they like to do. Have it tell you everything about that audience, and then all your content is going to be built around those people. It actually takes the heavy lifting off of what should I do, because now you don't have to go do a tour of a 4,000 square foot 3-bedroom house, because most 55 plus buyers they don't want that. They want master down, they want low maintenance, So it actually makes your job a lot easier. Once you have that and you're posting your content, you want to be doing that for at least 30 days. A good analogy I feel like now you know why I got most talkative, but it's like a good analogy for that is when I tell realtors, when you go to list a home and you're going to figure out pricing, the first thing you do is what? You go to the MLS, you see what's sold in the last 90, 180 days. How many days on market was it? Do they have price reductions? All that data feeds into your pricing strategy. If nothing sold, you have no data to go off of, so you're just kind of guessing. The same thing goes for your social media and your content. If you're not posting every day, you're never going to know what works. So for 30 days, be consistent, posting one time a day. Don't have a heart attack. It could be a story, it could be a reel, it could be a post. Try to show your face. I know people get weird about that, but that's the quickest way. Like, look, you and I, we can talk on Messenger or whatever, but you're never going to know if you really connect with someone unless you're face to face or face to computer to face, right? Having that audience, knowing what to talk, get them there for 30 days and look back at your insights, right? What did people engage with? What were they looking at? What were the most viewed? And then from there, you want to build some sort of lead magnet to capture them, to get them off the platform. It has to be interesting enough that it's going to be worth people giving their email address for, at minimum. And just do name and email for now. You can get their phone number later, right? But for example, you don't want to say, get a list of homes in Charlotte under 500, because there's no pull for them to do that. They can go to Zillow and filter that out. And people don't like to be sold to, right? But if you know your audience, you say, get a list of new construction, 55 homes with a $10,000 incentive or whatever it is, right away, people are more likely to give you their information in exchange for that. You can test out a few things. And then once you see what content's working and you have something to offer them in exchange for their email, that's when you use a tool like ManyChat, which, not to bring people down a rabbit hole, but it's simply a chatbot automation tool. So you're setting up conversations in there beforehand. You're matching it up with your content, and then that's running for you on the back end. So while you're out at a showing, if someone sees your video about the new construction community, they want to get on your list, they're just commenting a word, the system is replying to them, sending them a DM, and they're on your list. And you have your nurturing set up. So it will take a little time to set up, but once it's going, and it's working for you on the back end. It's just a matter of creating that content, which ChatGPT or ManyChat cannot do for you.
I love that. And so all of those steps together is really your attraction piece.
Yes.
And your capture piece and your conversion piece. So you have all of those pieces that you need essentially to turn your audience into clients, which is super important. And honestly, isn't that the goal of any lead generation? So
right.
Amazing.
We're not here to be social media influencers. You want to find a way to kind of get those people off. And you don't need a huge audience. You don't need to be doing funny dances. You just need to be you and be strategic about who you're talking to and giving them the information that's going to resonate with them. Because one piece of information isn't going to resonate with one person the way it would with the next.
Yeah. Thank you so much for giving us all of this information. And again, super tactical so that you can start putting something together that resonates for you and your brand. And the idea of the custom instructions inside of ChatGPT is such a good way to get started. So I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit, and I'm going to talk about the summit, because the reason that we are chatting today is because Sarah is one of our amazing speakers inside of the Women in Real Estate Summit. So if you don't know, every year I host the Women in Real Estate Summit, which is one of the largest online summits that was created specifically for licensed women in real estate. This year we are hosting it February 24th through the 28th, and it is our 5th year, so it's a pretty big deal. And we have brought in over 35 incredible, amazing, talented speakers. And Sarah is one of them. We are so lucky to have her. Sarah, would you tell us a little bit about what it is you're going to be speaking on?
Yes, let's go. So we're just going to be I'm just going to be digging deeper with the audience and the people who attend on really how to do these things and do them well. And you're right. There's a little marketing framework that you and I probably know, right? It's AIDA. Is it AIDA or is it AIDA? Because I always say AIDA. But anyway, it's AIDA, AIDA, awareness, interest, decision, action. Don't bore yourself with that, but that's pretty much the journey that people are going to take from just being a customer or just being a watcher, an audience member, to actually working with you. So in our presentation, we're going to dig deep into how to best use ChatGPT to interpret, well, to make content that sounds like you and goes to your audience, but also to interpret search data, how people are searching, what people are searching, what are the titles people are searching, how to use MLS data for your lead gen, to break it down, and how to quickly do things like we get a ton of marketing materials, right? You go to a new construction place, you get 20 papers sent home. How to quickly do something like take a picture of that, upload to ChatGPT, and have an email to your database in 2 minutes time, right? So I leaned in heavily on how exactly what we said, how to use it as a tool to take all your knowledge and expertise, but also streamline your time and kind of make more time to solve stuff, right? And then we did a walkthrough of ManyChat, how to come up with ideas for your lead magnet, and then how to make chatbots and automations that are going to drive people into your database. You should, just for me alone, in the last 30 days, I added 1,000 people to my email list just through ManyChat. And it cost me, I think ManyChat they have a free level, but then it's $15, goes up how many people you have. So if you, but look, I paid $45 last month to get 1,000 people on your email list. I mean, you can't do that. So as a realtor, even if you're getting 100 people on your list in a month, which can very easily be done, think of that over the course of a year. That's 1,200 people on your list, new people. If you're only converting 1% of that, help me with the math, girl. But that's like at least an extra, what is 1%? Yeah, 12. That's an extra 12 closings that year, right? So, and it'll cost you $15 a month, right? Like there's no reason you shouldn't be doing it. If you're a little bit, feel like you're a tech challenge thing, that's just in your head. ManyChat has a bunch of tutorials. I go through it in the all access pass as well. But it is something you're going to have to dedicate a little bit of time to sitting there, setting up the system that goes for anything. But it is, I think it's one of the best tools out there and the most underutilized for real estate agents right now.
Yeah. And I think it's really cool too. I just want to really point something out here because you said that, there's setup involved. We don't want to say that you don't have to do anything. There's setup involved with this.
Yeah.
But once you spend the time to set up, which realistically, once you kind of can grasp the concept of it, I'm going to say maybe it would take a couple days really to get it set up and feel like you kind of got a handle on it, right? After that, it's automated. So I know that I have things that I posted almost a year ago that people are still commenting on.
Right.
And I'm capturing leads through that. So it is one of the best ways that you can actually scale your lead generation, because let's be honest, you could either get 100 people a month doing it this way, or you could try cold calling for 4 hours every single day. Right? So it really is, like you said, it is a low cost of entry. The ManyChat for the free ManyChat is fine to get started. It gives you everything you need. And then of course, like you said, it's a minimal like $15 a month if you decide to upgrade to get some of, the more robust features as you start to learn it. But it is definitely 100% worth it. And I know that Sarah in her presentation, she really goes through a lot of tips and tricks and ideas to really help you.
Yeah.
Get started with it. So I'm really excited for people to be able to
and I encourage people, like, be in the group of agents, because you and I, we're around a ton of agents all the time, right? Be in the group of agents. In this summit, I know some of these names. I'm like, oh my God, Karen Carr, like, whoa. But like, be in the group of agents who takes all the stuff and not only learns it, but implements it, right? Because that's the biggest thing. And even with me, I was probably like looking at other people doing ManyChat for so long, and it seems like when you're not in it, it seems like an overwhelming system. I'm like, oh my God, just have to make these arrows go. Yeah. But in reality, it's really not. It can be done for free. And if you just force yourself to implement something like this, I guarantee you're going to be calling Tara like, girl, I'm so happy I got my ManyChat, right? I mean, and because if 500 agents show up to the summit, I'm almost willing to bet 1% of them are going to go and they're going to watch that ManyChat presentation, but they're not going to do it. So if you just make 2025 a year where you do like less listening, more doing, it's going to make a huge difference in your business. I can almost guarantee it. For sure.
I love that. Amazing. And that's a really good point too. And during the week of the summit, we do have a Facebook group that generates a lot of activity and a lot of conversation. And one of the things that I love about having that support piece is that all of the speakers are in there. So if you watch Sarah's presentation and you're like, okay, I still have questions about this and I'm not really sure, she's in there and she's ready to answer your questions, which I absolutely love and I think is so amazing. These ladies are, as she said, they're just incredible. Every single one of them is just a chef's kiss. Like I don't know how I got so lucky to be surrounded by so many great, amazing women like you, but it is just such a blessing. So I'm really excited about this year. The best part is that the summit is absolutely free. So it costs you nothing to attend, which is insane. And then with that, as Sarah said, there is a bonus piece to that. If you do decide that you want lifetime access to all of the presentations and you want to dig deeper, as she's mentioned a couple of times, she has provided something that allows that. All of the speakers have provided bonuses and you can upgrade for a pretty nominal price. So especially for the value that you're getting. So go ahead and check all of that out. Other than that, Sarah, I want you to let everybody know how they can connect with you outside of the summit.
Yeah, so probably the best place to find me is on Instagram at The Lead Suite is my handle. I also have a podcast called Real Estate Coffee Talk. We were on pause for 3 months because I got pregnant and I was throwing up every single day. But now I'm only throwing up once a day, so we're good. So we're coming back in March. But I mean, if you go back, you could like binge. There's some really great speakers on there. But yeah, Instagram is the best place to connect with me. The Lead Suite, I give a bunch of ChatGPT tips, tricks, things you can do. And if you comment on one of my videos, you can see kind of like what a ManyChat does in action, what the automation will do in action. So you can see how that might be able to apply to your business.
I love it. Amazing. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for spending time with me today and giving us all the tips and tricks. So I hope that you are part of the 1% that's actually going to implement the things that we talked about today. That is going to be all. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Thank you, girl. See you soon. Bye.